I want everyone to feel like they are the dominant creature in the game.
Hi everybody, welcome to Quimbleys. I'm Chelsea Archibald. I'm the Director of Marketing Communications here, and we are hanging out with the awesome game designer Sandy Peterson.
This is very exciting. I'm author Stephen Heumann. We have played Cthulhu Wars kind of and learned it.
Kind of, you totally played it.
I feel like learning it from you, I'm learning it from the true master, and you're going to teach me things that no one else could possibly teach me. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, his thinking is totally wrong, Chelsea, because I'm actually just going to teach you the bare bones way of playing the game. And my reason is because it's more fun to find out the secrets and tricks and traps on your own.
Oh,
so it's for his own good.
Okay.
So it's about the journey.
It's about the journey.
I
And
like
then
that.
as you get better at the game by understanding what the other factions can do, what your own faction can do, how you get more powerful, and then that's why when you buy an expansion faction, it's super fun because now you have a whole new guy to get used to.
I love that. I'm so excited.
All right, let's go ahead and jump in then. So where do we start, Sandy?
Okay, so in the game Cthulhu Wars, the world is laid waste, and the ancient horrors of Cthulhu and his buddies have come back to devastate the world. And they have cults. The only humans left that really matter are the cultists that worship these awful interdimensional beings.
Well, that's disappointing.
And you are one of these cults. You get to be one of these super powerful things. And the game is all about empowerment because you are super powerful. And when you look at your abilities, you will soon realize that if you can only get them all organized and working together properly, nothing can stop you. And you're correct. The only caveat is that sometimes someone else gets their engine going at the same time or just before yours. So you got an equally unbalanced, over-the-top competitor.
Chelsea, how do you feel about being a super powerful cultist for an old one?
Well, let me be clear. The cultists aren't super powerful.
If I wasn't playing this game, that statement sounds kind of frightening. But in Gameland, that appeals to me.
So the cultists aren't powerful.
The cultists are not powerful. They are the minions that build your faction. So you start the map with 6 cultists in a start area, and these are what the cultists look like, and they have a gate. This is what the gates look like. And one of the cultists is on the gate. He's controlling that gate. And everyone starts like that. Now, even before that, you set up the map. So the map, right now we got it set up on this is the 3-player side of the map, and this is the 5-player side of the map. So if you want to play 5 players, you have both the 5-player sides up. 3 players, you have both the 3-player sides up. And if you want to play 4-player, you have one face up and one face down. And so you have 2 different 4-player configurations. We've chosen this one, where the old world has more factions. And the reason that makes a difference is because the more areas on the map, the more room you have to expand, and we don't want you to have a lot of room to expand because you want you to be forced to interact with your buddies. So here we are in the 4-player map, which has 17 land areas and 4 factions, so good luck with that. Now, so what you do, the game starts out in the action phase, okay? Ooh. And so right now we can see you're Great Cthulhu and you're the yellow sign. So
ooh,
too
I'm
bad
Haster,
for you.
Right?
Yeah. Well, you're not Haster. You are the yellow sign.
The yellow sign.
Haster is one of the units.
Oh, okay.
All the factions have a name. Blue is the crawling chaos, but they have a great old one called Nyarlathotep. Red is the black goat. I know he's red, but he's the black goat. Yeah. And her great old one is Shub-Niggurath. So they all have a faction leader. Great Cthulhu he's Great Cthulhu, and then he has Cthulhu as the figure. So he gets named after his boss, unlike the other factions. It's just how it is. Now, on your map here, you have a faction card, and there's this power track that goes up to 20 and beyond. There's spellbook requirements here. There's descriptions of all your units. There's your special abilities. And on the back, there's a little quote about your faction, usually from Lovecraft, and then there's a little story we wrote about him to give you a feel for it. The Lovecraft story is like a teletype from a ship to ship about a scientific experiment.
We did play this, but we didn't get to any of this stuff. So
this has nothing to do with the game.
But it's still super fun.
It's just, you read it before you play the game. So like Yellow Sign has a guy who's reviewing the play, The King in Yellow. Okay, and this is a review of The King in Yellow, and it kind of goes haywire.
That's awesome.
And then Black Goat has a little kid's diary, and so they all have something different going on, and they're kind of fun to read, and there's some humor in them and some creepy stuff. They're all kind of creepy. But so you start out, you don't even see that because you're on this side of the board and you can't turn it over because you have stuff on it. One of the things you have on it is this little booger here, and this is your power track. It tells how much power you have. And power is what drives the game for you, because on your turn, you're going to perform actions. You're going to do one action, only one action, and that action is going to cost power. So you pay power equal to the cost of the action, then you do the action, and then it goes to the next player. Which direction does it go? Well, the first player, who is always Cthulhu, if he's in the game, gets to pick which way it goes. So if Cthulhu picks it to go this direction, the play will go around like this.
So in using this as a player, you could disrupt, like let's say you've got somebody that you're fighting against, and you know that by allowing someone else to have a first turn, you can really put them in a bad
usually
position.
Slightly better to go earlier in the round. So if she puts it like this, she's slightly benefiting yellow and hurting blue. But if she does it this way, she's helping blue and hurting yellow a little bit. Okay, but also this is not hers forever for the rest of the game. It's only hers as long as she can keep it. And typically this moves around a lot during the game, so other guys will have it. But the first turn she's got it. So we'll put it like this because we hate yellow sign. And we don't really hate yellow sign, but we hate Steve.
Tell me what you really think, Sandy.
Okay, so she's going to do an action, and it's going to cost one or more power, and then it goes down. Now eventually she'll get down to 0 power. Everyone will. And if you're at 0 power and other people still have power left, they can still do actions until they run out. Once everyone's out of power, the action phase ends and we go on to the next phase. Now, there are actions that cost 0 power. These actions you can't take if you're at 0 power, because you can't do anything when you're at 0 power. But if you have 1 or more power and you have a 0 cost action, you can do it. And just like, okay, I'm going to take my 0 point action now and keep my power for later. And of course, the advantage of that is if you can delay the game's end for you, other guys run out of power, and then you still have some power left, you can go and like abuse them with your power to. There's actually a faction that's specifically designed to exploit that. That's the orange faction, the sleeper. That's kind of their thing. So here's the actions you can do. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the basic action of moving. Moving costs 1 power per person that you move. It's only one action, but you can move multiple guys if you spend enough power. So for example, at the start of the game here, Red has 6 cultists here in Africa. He could spend 6 power and like move them all into different areas around where she is. That would actually not be a very smart thing because among other problems, she like abandons her gate. But she could do it, okay? Another thing is you don't have to move them from the same area. For example, see, Yellow was like this. Yellow could spend 1 power to move this cultist to the North Atlantic, 1 power to move this guy to South America, and another power to move this cultist also to the North Atlantic. That would be 3 power to move those 3 guys. Okay, you can move them together, however you want. What you can't do is spend 2 power to move 1 guy 2 spaces. If you spend 2 power, you can move 2 guys each 1 space, but not 1 guy twice. Now, in Cthulhu Wars is all about breaking the rules, not cheating, breaking the rules. And so now I'm going to have to point out that the blue faction, Crawling Chaos, has the special ability written here on his chart that says you can fly, even your cultists. When you move, you can move 2 spaces. So blue can say, well, I'm going to move 2 spaces. I'm going to move from Arabia to North Atlantic, or from Arabia, or from China across the Indian Ocean to Antarctica. So that's only 1 point for him to move 2 spaces.
So this is a perfect. When we played last week, the one thing that I noticed was that every single faction has like its own unique thing that throws people off.
Yes, that's why it's an asymmetrical game. The factions feel very different. A strategy that will work for Great Cthulhu Green will not work for Red Black Goat. You have to do your own strategies. And there's multiple strategies per faction that you will develop as you play. And you have to pick one of the ones for that. And you get better at finding new factions, new strategies, and interacting and how to handle the old factions. So you're going to feel really different. And your factions get more and more different while you're playing the game, because you start getting the spellbooks start coming into play, and they start doing things, start getting your great old ones out, and it starts being really aberrant. So Cthulhu is kind of like the apex predator who goes and beats on everyone and is not afraid to die because he comes back cheap and easy. And Black Goat is more like a fungus infection that spreads and you can't really extirpate. And you can go in there, but it keeps popping up, and like, I can't get rid of him. You know, Black Goat doesn't usually declare combat on you, but they mess with you in other terrible ways. Blue is like a scavenger or a vulture that goes, it kicks you when you're down and preys on the weak and helpless, and is zipping in across the map using the flying ability to go in there and target the people right where it hurts them most. And yellow kind of is an insane person following its own crazy plan across the world, is its own drummer. But as it does this, it's messing with everyone else a lot. It's all about, Cthulhu Wars is all about messing with other people. It's sort of like a knife fight in a back alley where you're rolling around in the dirt, you're going for the kidneys. You'll see.
I've never heard of a game described that way, but I love it.
That's what it's like. So
Immediately on board.
okay, now that's how you move. Like a very common first move is for Cthulhu to pay 1 power and move this guy to like South America or the North Atlantic or somewhere around them. Now there's oceans on the map and there's land. There's not a difference in the game between them. You can move cultists in the water. You can build gates in the water. The only difference is that some of the factions care if they do things in the water. Cthulhu being a notable case, that they care about things. They know about the water and they kind of keep track of it. So that's the move. Second, let's talk about recruiting cultists.
Like you do.
Like you do. So every cultist has a cost, and it's 1. And the way you recruit cultists is you must first have a cultist who is not on the map because he's dead. Because you can't recruit more than your total. So she now has only 5 cultists. She's got 1 available. She could now recruit a cultist. So here's a monster over here in Arabia. And I want to recruit a cultist, so she pays 1 power and then places the cultist with the monster. She could have instead had the cultist placed
Chelsea.
here with the other cultists. Basically, you can recruit them anywhere you have a unit. Cthulhu can recruit a cultist. He just puts on a suit and tie and a name badge and goes knocks on someone's door and says, "Join my cult." Who's going to say no, right?
I'm sure he's very effective.
So anyone can recruit cultists. Cultists live on Earth. You don't need you just have to have a unit there. Now, next, let's talk about summoning a monster. Now, monsters don't live on Earth naturally. So to get a monster, you have to have a gate, and you have to control the gate with one of your cultists, and only cultists can control gates. So to get a monster, you pay the monster's cost. For example, this big nasty monster here is a star spawn, and Chelsea's going to look up how much it costs. Cost 3. She paid 3 power and placed this in with her gate. And it can't go on the gate because monsters can't control gates. Again, there's always exceptions. Black Goat has 1 monster that can control gates because they're big cheaters, but everyone else is a big cheater too in their own way. So that's how you get a monster. Now, you only get 1 action a turn, so if your action is recruit 1 cultist, you get 1 cultist. If your action is summon 1 monster, you get 1 monster. There's an exception. Black Goat has the ability to summon multiple monsters at the same time as she does anything else. She's just like really into monsters. So that's how that goes.
Kind of like me.
Yeah. So, excellent. So if you like monsters, you're going to dig this game. And the next thing is to awaken your Great Old One. Now, I can't tell you what this is because it's different for every single faction. So, for example, the Yellow Sign, who has 2 Great Old Ones, to awaken the King in Yellow, she has to have a unit in an area that doesn't have a gate. He can't do it at the start of the game, but say his first turn was to move this guy to the North Atlantic. Then his second action, when it gets around back to him again, he could then spend 4 power and put the king there. Now he's got the king. Cthulhu's system is he has to have a gate in Cthulhu's starting area here. And then she pays 10 power and Cthulhu appears there. The only place Cthulhu can appear is in his starting area. Everyone else can appear kind of whenever they want to go. They all have different rules, like Black Goat kills her own minions when she appears, and oh, thank you very much. So they all have
Chelsea
different
paying
ways.
attention to everybody's needs.
And if you get expansion factions, you'll find all the expansion factions have some weird way to awaken the Great Old One. Usually you have to prepare for it. For example, Cthulhu's First Awakening costs 10 power. So since you only start with 8 power, you gotta build up to get Cthulhu. You can get it the second turn if you plan for it though. So let's talk about the next action, which is build a gate. To build a gate, you have to have a cultist in an area that doesn't have a gate. Okay? That cultist, or you actually, spends 3 power. Go ahead and spend 3 power and build your gate. And you put a gate right here.
Chelsea gets to have all the fun.
You can't put it here because you already have a gate there. 1 gate per area. And then this guy steps, you can put on top of it, and now you have a gate. Yay!
I've always wanted a gate to Brazil.
Well, with the gate, it leads.
I think this is the gate to
gate
hell.
Doesn't go to Brazil. The gate doesn't go to Brazil. It leads to Brazil from somewhere else.
Oh, so I would be bringing monsters
you're going to
to
bring monsters
Brazil.
to Brazil, yeah.
Sorry, Brazilians.
Wrecking the rainforest, Chelsea. Good job.
Again.
Anyway, yeah, the monsters all pollute.
That's
Their
what I liked about
baptisms-
playing the King in Yellow is that I got to desecrate everywhere.
Yes, the King in Yellow is going to spread these
That's the word,
desecration marks all over the
desecrate.
map and just make the world even worse. And the game in general just keeps, like, everything goes to hell in a handbasket. Like, you can't get rid of desecrations, you can't get rid of gates. They just keep accumulating until the whole world is a nightmare of monsters, which is, of course, what you want. You want to have tentacles all over the map and monsters everywhere, so it's pretty cool. So that is how you... This is almost all the actions. There's only 2 actions left to talk about. One of them is battling. So the way you battle is you just have to have units from someone else in your area. So we'll use this as an example again. So here is Chelsea has moved her star spawn into Europe, and she's going to fight Steve. So what's your monster?
My cultists are strong.
Your monster combat score. Your star spawn.
3.
Right. So you're going to get to roll 3 dice. Okay. Now, Steve, what's the combat for all 6 cultists added together?
0.
0, exactly. So now you're going to roll your 3 dice. Now he'll roll his 0 dice, and we got 2 5s and a 1. Okay. Now the results are: if you roll a 6, that's a kill. If you roll a 4 or a 5, that's a pain. And a 1, 2, or 3 doesn't do anything. So they suck. What a kill does is the defender, the guy who got killed, has to pick one of his dudes to die. He can pick whoever he wants, so he doesn't have to pick the one on the gate, for example, to kill this one. And then if he had something there that could fight, then he might have got a kill on the star spawn and maybe killed it. He doesn't have any choice who gets killed because he only has like the one star spawn, right?
So when we played last week, my wife played, and she at one point was able to roll 12 dice in a battle.
Whoa, did she take out a whole army?
No, in fact, she only got 2 pains and 0 kills from 12 dice.
Holy cannoli.
It was hilarious. We were laughing so hard.
Did she win anyway?
No, she did not. She completely lost because the other person only had 4 dice and got 3 kills.
But in general, if you have the better strategy, there is dice in the combat, but usually if you roll 12 dice to 4 dice, it's
Most of the time, yeah, you're going to dominate. That's the
But
fun
it is,
part.
but it is not a European game where you bid on who wins the combat or you bet little cubes. There's the dice there, so be prepared for that dice. Now there's ways to mitigate it. All the factions have ways to mitigate it. Cthulhu, for example, has the special ability of Devour. That before his combat starts, just before the combat starts, before you roll a dice, he eats someone on the other side, so he always gets 1 kill.
That's what I do usually too. when I'm
So
about to
anyway,
fight someone.
so you roll the dice, you get your combat result on both sides. Everyone picks who gets killed. Now, for pain, your units, you have to pick the units that are pained, and they have to retreat to an adjacent area, and they have to retreat to an area that doesn't have the faction that just pained them. So, for example, we'll put Cthulhu here in Scandinavia. We'll put yellow. We'll put a red guy here. So let's say that so he pained 2 yellow in that last fight. So these 2 guys are getting pained. They don't have to go to the same place, but they could. And so they can't go to Scandinavia because there's a green unit there. They can go to Arabia even though there's a red unit there because red isn't the guy that just fought her. Okay, and then she can go to North Atlantic or North Asia because there's no one there. So she could put them both there if she wanted, and that's how the pain works. And that gets your units moved around a little bit, which is sometimes good and sometimes bad. However, again, the defender picks where they go. So if she didn't want to have, she could I'll split them up and give myself more options. Okay, and again, always there's a cheater. This time the big cheater is going to be Blue, who has a spell book called Madness, which lets him pick where you retreat in any battle. That's combat. Now we're going to go to the last thing as a regular action that you do, and this is capture. You can capture cultists. Here is how it works. You have a monster in an area that only has cultists, like Chelsea has here. And then Chelsea says, I'm a capture. So she pays 1 power, and one of those guys is captured. And Steve, again, picks who it is, so it's not this guy. It's captured, it goes here under portrait. He's captured. Okay, and then next turn, she can do it again. So if Steve doesn't like this, and why would he? He could stop it by summoning a monster. See, there's a pecking order. There's cultists at the bottom, Then there's monsters, and then there's great old ones. So here we'll have Chelsea, she'll summon a monster. It's an undead. So an undead is one of the crappiest monsters in the whole game. It's terrible, okay?
Of course, that's what I summoned.
And the Star Spawn is one of the very best monsters in the whole game. But they're both monsters. They get equal votes in the House of Lords, and so he can't capture her cultists anymore with that monster there. Now, he could fight them and roll, but he can't capture them. Now, if he wants to keep capturing them, then he would have to move something that outranks a monster. In other words, a great old one. So he's bringing in the great old. Now we can capture him again, if he wants. And then, again, Steve could bring in his own great old one. Has to. And now Cthulhu can't capture anymore because there's another great old one. Usually a situation like that's not really stable and the fight's going to break out, but that's up to them. You don't have to fight, you just can. Yeah, the capture is good for a couple reasons. One is that the other guy doesn't have those guys for the rest of the turn. He can't recruit them back because they're here. And then during the gather power phase, which we'll get into, he can get some power for it. So in fact, we'll talk about the gather power phase now. So everyone eventually runs out of power, and we go to the gather power. And the way it works is you get 1 power for every cultist you have on the map. And then you get 2 power for every gate you have on the map. So for example, here we have Chelsea, who has 6 cultists. So she goes down to 0, she gets 6 power. Swing. And then she has 2 gates, that's 4 more power. Okay. Swing. Then you get 1 power if there's a gate that isn't controlled by anyone. This doesn't even happen every game, but it sometimes happens. And then everyone will get a power for that. So we'll go ahead and put Steve on here. So
0.
Steve, well, you have 4 cultists, so you go up to 4.
So 4.
Then you have 1 gate that puts you up 2.
6. Okay.
And then you get 1 from the abandoned gate, and so does Chelsea.
Okay.
Everyone gets 1 from the abandoned gate. Blue gets it, red gets, everyone loves the abandoned gate, except they kind of wish it was theirs instead. And then captured cultists are returned to the owner. Oh. You have to return them. They're sacrificed, and you get 1 power. You get 1 power for each one. But now he can recruit them again.
But that's up because now you can see just that action. If she had done that, she has 4 or 5 more power than I do because she was able to steal those. She has 6 more power than you do.
Yeah, she has 13 to your 7. So probably she'll be first player again. But now also during this gather power, there's some abilities. We'll get into abilities in a little bit. Some spell books that can give her more or less power. We'll talk about that. Like Yellow Sign, for example, has a pretty good way of getting extra power. But we'll go into that when the spell books. We'll talk about the spell books. So that's how you figure out your power. Now, after this, we go to determine first player, and it's whoever has the most power. So if it's a tie, then whoever was first player last turn gets to break the tie. And if they're part of the people in the tie, they can, of course, always pick themselves, which is what they do 95% of the time. They just I want to be first player. It's great to go first, right? So I know a lot of games it's better to go later in the turn and see what they do. And every once in a while, that's kind of useful in Cthulhu Wars. But usually in Cthulhu Wars, you want to be the first guy. Here'd be a case where you really want to go first because there's an abandoned gate there, and you want to get onto that gate to control it. So if I was Chelsea and I was the first player, I would say, I'm paying 2 power to move. 1 power moves this guy here, and 1 power moves this guy here, and now I can have both gates. And then, of course, someone's going to come mess with you. But
Chelsea's not even playing; she's dominating.
But that's how it is.
I think I should just have Sandy.
It's just an example. Well, no, but what if I'm playing red?
Then I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to go to the Doom phase.
The Doom phase.
This is the glorious Doom phase.
This was fun.
Doom is how you win the game. It's like victory points. The game ends when someone gets to 30 Doom. The way you get to Doom is you get 1 Doom for each gate you control. Gates give you Doom. So right here, everyone has 1 gate. In real life, some would have more, some would have less. Then anyone that wants to can do a ritual of annihilation, and it starts at a cost of 5. So you pretty much don't want to do it the second turn. You want to wait till you have more power. The ritual annihilation lets you double the amount of Doom you got for your gates. So for example, say that red here had 3 gates. So during the Doom track, red went up to 3. Red could now do a ritual of annihilation and get 3 more. And if red had this guy on the map somewhere, that's her great old one, she gets another bonus because when you do a ritual of annihilation, for each great old one you have, which is 1 for everyone except him, you get an elder sign. So an elder sign is a little symbol like this, and you keep it secret next to you, but on the other side it has a number from 1 to 3. And that's how many Doom points it's worth when you cash it in. And you can cash it in anytime you want. So red in this case may feel it's worth doing a ritual because they get 3 doom and an elder sign, which is worth 1 to 3 more doom. So that, is get there. Usually the rule of thumb I follow is if I have 4 or more gates, I pretty much always ritual. If I have 3 gates, it's kind of iffy unless I'm yellow sign. And if I have 2 gates or 3 gates as yellow sign and I have both great old ones out, I'll pretty much always ritual. So, and also if you don't have your great old one out and you have 4 gates, you may not want to ritual because you really want the elder sign. So
these are the sort of tips that are going to allow us to beat everyone the next game.
In general, losing your great old one is super bad. The exception is Cthulhu doesn't really mind losing hers, and yellow sign is kind of okay losing the king in yellow. It sucks a little more to lose Haster, but it's whatever. So you're probably expecting there's some difficult way to kill the great old ones. It's not. It's like any other unit. Like if you roll a 6 on the dice in combat and it gets applied to the great old one, they're dead. Like here's Black Goat with 4 cultists. So you'd have to get 5 hits to get Black Goat. And if you wanted to kill her, they'd have to be 5 kills because the first 4 kills she's going to pawn off on her cultists, not going to apply it to herself. So you saw that this giant monster that I said was powerful had 3 dice. That doesn't sound like very many, but the great old ones can roll a lot more dice. Okay, Cthulhu rolls 6 dice. Blue can roll from 2 to 12 dice. Red, like sky's the limit. And of course, good old King in Yellow rolls 0 dice. But that's kind of he has other purposes in life.
Desecration.
Okay? Yeah, desecration. And capturing cultists and turning them into zombies. Not really zombies, these undead mummy tentacle things. Okay, so during the doom track, you're increasing your doom. You might be doing a ritual of annihilation. When you do a ritual of annihilation, several things happen. One is that the cost of the next ritual of annihilation goes up. So the earlier you do it, the better for you and the worse for them. Then, like I said, it increases your doom and it gives you an elder sign. Now, usually the way the game ends is not by someone getting up to 30 on this track. Well, it is, but not by earning it on the doom track. It's by someone having a stack of elder signs and revealing them and jumping up to 30. So the elder signs is also a way of concealing your score. So you're looking around saying, ooh, yellow has like 6 elder signs. That's worth on the average probably 10 points or so. So yellow could end it. We have to do something about that. So every faction also has a unique way of earning elder signs. Red, of course, earns it by killing their own cultists. Blue earns it by picking on the weak and helpless. Cthulhu earns it by actually being awakened, and every time he's killed and reawakened, he gets another elder sign, and he only costs 4 to reawaken, so it's kind of a deal.
So I have a quick question, Sandy, about the doom phase and with the ritual annihilation. So let's say that you had in one turn you're able to get 6 points, and then if you did this, so it would automatically double that.
No. It only increases the amount of doom you got that turn. So if next turn you have 2 gates because you lost one of them. Then you would get 2 doom, and then if you did a ritual, you would get 2 more doom and an elder sign.
Okay, so whatever is just that one turn.
It's just whatever that one turn's limit was. Okay. So if you had 6 gates, you would get 6 doom, and then
that would be a good choice.
I would always do a ritual and get up to 12, right?
Oh, all right.
And basically, what you're doing with the ritual is you're spending power to get doom, so you have a weaker turn, but you cash it in for a bunch of doom. That actually gives the players who held on to their power kind of a chance to catch up, they hope. So everyone's sort of better off. You're better off because you have all the stuff you spend on it. You have all these doom points. Other players are better off because now they can try to pull you down. But of course, you're too powerful for them to do it, so don't worry about that. Okay, now we're going to talk about one of the most key things in the entire game, which is the spellbooks. Every faction has 6 spellbook slots, and they're different for every faction. Every one of these slots is different for every other one. Okay, and then when you achieve the requirements in a faction, even if this happens during someone else's turn, you immediately get the spellbook and you can place it on your thing. For example, let's give Cthulhu as an example.
Control 3 gates in the ocean or sea area, or 4 gates.
4 gates exist
in ocean.
So, for example, Cthulhu's sitting here minding his own business, kind of an odd state for Cthulhu, and other people build gates in the ocean. As soon as it gets to 4 gates, Cthulhu's like, woohoo, 4 gates, I get a spellbook. Dunk. So the spell book you choose, it's not fixed. You can pick whatever spell book you want for everything. So part of your decision making here is which spell book do I get now? Which spell book do I try to apply for to move on? And what's my plan going forward? And I'll tell you the truth. Typically, a game of Cthulhu Wars lasts 3 to 5 action rounds. So by the 5th action round, when you get your 6th spell book, there's not a lot of turns left. So that last spellbook will only get used a little bit, which is good because it means next time you play, you say, I want to try out that spellbook some more. It looked really good there at the end. So you maybe change your thing to use this. The game always seems fresh. So you get your spellbooks, you put them in here when they happen. Some spellbooks have spellbook actions that only apply to this. For example, blue has a spellbook action that says spend 4 power. And so that's not poor power like moving 4 guys. It's like his only action is he spends 4 power and gets a spellbook, and that's it. Or like yellow sign has one here.
Select as your action another player to gain 3 doom points.
So he just says, Chelsea, you get 3 doom. And then he gets a spellbook. There it goes. Now you have that spellbook. That may not be the one you got, the Screaming Dead, but it could be. Some of the spellbooks change the whole world in a way that is good for you and sucks for everyone else. Some of the spellbooks are tied to a specific unit, like this monster is now better. So for example, the Sawgrass have the absorption spellbook that makes them good. Or like Black Goat has a spellbook that makes his cultists have a combat of 1. Now, even though they have a combat, that doesn't make them monsters, they just can fight in a battle. It still lets a monster capture them, even if the monster has 0 combat, which some do. Like the famous undead. Some of them make your Great Old One better. They're all fabulous. And in addition to giving you great powers that make you want to win the game, they also have another secret ability, which is that you can't win the game until you have all 6 spell books. The game can end with you having only 5 spell books, but if it does, you don't win. Whoever has the most...
I didn't know that.
The person who has the most doom points and 6 spell books wins when the game ends. So first off, if you're playing a game and a brand new player can beat someone who's experienced, then that's probably not a great strategy game because it's too much luck, I think. So in Cthulhu Wars, a brand new player is usually going to lose to an advanced player. Now, if there's more than one advanced player, they may focus on each other and let her kind of gain some points if she figures out what she's doing fast enough. But would you want a game where skill doesn't matter and experience doesn't matter? You want a game where, right? So the other thing to remember, though, is that in any multiplayer strategy game worth its salary, it should be fun to play even if you lose. So it'd be fun to lose, and you have stories about your great victory. Like he had the story of his great almost victory where his wife rolled 12 dice and got 2 pains only. And there's better stories than that, but there's stories like, I almost had it, and then those guys, they got me. Be aware that not winning should be fun. If you can only have fun if you win, you should probably stick to non-competitive games.
Well, and I can confirm because, so first of all, the reason that Arthur lost is because he was focusing on Matt, and both of them were really good. Mm-hmm. And the 2 of them were just like wrecking each other, and it was fun to watch. But I didn't win, but I thought the game was amazing. I had so much fun. And then I wanted to, because for me it was like, this guy, I played as Haster, and his abilities were unique, and then I was like, well, now I want to play as Cthulhu because I really
you saw what Cthulhu was doing. I wanted to have that stuff. Yeah,
it was awesome.
Yeah, and then when you get in the new factions, for example, in Orange, the Sleeper faction, his Great Old One's special ability is a new action called Lethargy, which is do nothing.
I can do that all day long.
Right, but imagine what it does. He starts at 8. He starts at 8, like everyone else. Then it's his turn. I'm doing nothing. And he keeps his 8. And then you're doing something. Then I'm doing nothing. And then by the end of the round, he's got like 5 or 6 stuff left. And if someone doesn't poke the bear to make him do something, he's going to end up with all of his power, and you guys all at 0. And then he's just going to annihilate you. So that's his scary thing, especially since his Great Old One has the ability to capture monsters.
So before we wrap up, Sandy, how is it that you come up with these unique abilities? Because you've got things like that where the sleeper does something totally crazy, but that can, really decimate. But then somebody else has something unique for them.
That's the whole goal. Everyone has to have some way to break in the rules. I want everyone to feel like they are the dominant creature in the game. I always design a game with the theme first. So I started out, the theme here was was the Cthulhu Great Old One. So the very first faction I worked hard on were red and green. I said, what are Cthulhu's powers? And I based the powers on what I thought Cthulhu would do and what I thought Shub-Niggurath would do. And that's what I based the spellbooks on, the spellbook requirements, all based on what I thought these factions should be. Now, of course, they've changed since I first wrote them down in 2012, but they haven't completely changed. So I had my feel for the game. All of them are doing the things I feel right. So like the sleeper, Sathago, is famous for being indolent and laying around and only waking up once in a while to eat. So that's where the whole like do nothing thing came from, lethargy, where he's just like, he turns it into a virtue to like not do anything. So, you know, whereas the other factions, like the Black Goat's fungus infection thing comes because she's like a twisted fertility god. So she spawns monsters everywhere. Her monsters go and mess with people. And so forth. So it's all based on the theme first. I know not all designers go with theme first. Some of them go with like the game system, but I'm a theme guy. So if you like Lovecraft, this feels like Lovecraft's monsters as in the theme. And the rules are pretty fun too, as you can see from many reviews online.
Well, Sandy, thank you so much for taking the time to play it through and give us some tips that even after having playing, I wasn't quite sure of. So this is awesome. Chelsea, how do people pick up Cthulhu Wars?
Visit quimbleys.com. We've got some amazing stuff.
And you can pick out all the other games. We're doing more playthroughs of like Planet Apocalypse and all of that stuff. I'm very excited to learn these games. So check out quimbleys.com. Again, Sandy, thank you so much. Not only for teaching us, but for creating this game. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Have a good one.